So the chiddush we saw yesterday was that Avraham, who's the source of ahava, of chesed, he's also the source of will. Because we said that his name was originally Avram, which means the person who knows the will of above, or that he has the will from above, the supernal will. And Hashem told him to leave Aram Naharaim, the land between the two rivers, Mesopotamia, and to move beyond the rivers to Eretz Yisrael, to Eretz Canaan at the time, so that he would be able to transform his will into actual deeds, and not just to remain at a level of will.
Why couldn't he have done that in Mesopotamia?
Oh, wonderful. So what's the answer?
Coronavirus.
What?
Yeshua is an Oleh Chadash.
I once heard
holy.
There was a book you probably saw, the what's it called? The Cradle? The Hidden
Cradle of Civilization.
No. It's about a family that became Balei Tshuva. They moved to China. They went to Taiwan for a year.
The bamboo cradle?
Bamboo cradle, right. So he got a good eitzah. They started becoming Balei Tshuva, I guess, in Baltimore or something like that. I don't remember exactly where. And the father was a professor or something, a doctor, and something at the APL, I don't know what, somewhere in the corridor. It's called the corridor. And they wanted to become full-fledged, observant Jews. But the thing that was most difficult for him was putting his kippah on. So he walked around with a habit, but he couldn't do it. So he got this great advice from somebody there in Baltimore. He told him, when you move to Taiwan for a year, there nobody knows you. So you come there, and that's how you are. It's just how you are. When he came back, he was already used to it.
Nobody will remember you.
So sometimes I guess you need to use these changes to be able to change your conduct, because it could be that you already understand something a certain way, but because you're stuck in the place that you are, it's very hard for you to change your outward appearance and outward actions. And I think Hashem says to Avram, look, I know your mind is in the right place, your will is in the right place, but for you to really be able to pursue your own path, you have to disconnect from your family, from where you grew up, and in Eretz Canaan, which is the land of the heart. And because Canaan, why does the Torah tell us there's 7 Canaanite nations? How did they come to this exact number? So clearly, this corresponds to the 7 attributes of the heart, the Zayin Tachtonot, from Chesed to Malchus. So I asked somebody yesterday, I asked in a group that I'm on, because it seemed to me that when Hashem, so Avram himself became Chesed. What about the other 7? What about the other 6 attributes? So I think we said this yesterday, right? That the 5, that the hey that he added to his name, we didn't say this. So the hey that he added to his name, it's very simple to say that since Chesed is Yom Ha'azilim Kulo Yumin, it's called in the Zohar, Chesed is considered to be the most important of the midos, of the attributes of the heart, because it actually accompanies all the others. And in a certain sense, it's once you open that, you open all the rest. You open the heart. So if he had a Ava, he probably also had. He could get the other 5. So that I said later in the day that that's the hey that Hashem added. But what about the Aretz? What about the Malchus? That's the 7th. Where is that? So one thought that came to my mind was that was the land, that Hashem promised him the land itself, but that he never received really, and only his children did.
Hashem's promise of today is
they'll give you
tomorrow.
settle, but it didn't happen in Avram's time, and he says that they never had doubts about what I had promised. In any case, so somebody said, they showed me a sefer written by one of the Mekubalim. He does something very simple. He says that the Hey is Hey Aleph. the milui, it has an aleph also. So the hey is really 6. Technique. Beseder. In any case. So we said that there are 7 different ways in which Yidden approach love of Hashem. And it's the same idea. That when you say love of Hashem, what you mean is serving God. It's being attached to Hashem. And the whole thing of Ahavta, the whole reason that we come to Ahavta is really not in order to come to love Hashem, he said, because that every Jew has concealed in him, the attachment to Hashem. Rather, Ahavta milshon ava, shu perush haratzon, right on the top of the second column. Top of the second column. Perush haratzon, lefi sharatzon hu pnimiyut hamidot. Because really what we're talking about here is that when you come to V'ahavta in Kriyas Shema, what you really mean is I will want to love Hashem, and I will want, the wanting, the ava, the same letters, but it means to want. That's the inner essence of all the faculties of the heart. As we see from experience, שהרצון מנהיג המידות של אדם, שאפילו אם יש לפניו דבר שיש בו תענוג לפי טבע המידות, אם מסלק רצונו ממנו מפני איזה טעם ודעת, אינו מקבל נחת ותענוג ממנו. Because a person can refrain from something just by changing what he wants. So even though he would normally receive pleasure from something, the moment that his will is not there, the pleasure is taken away as well. And the opposite is also true. וכן להפך. אם יש לפניו חס וחלילה דבר שצר ויסורים, והוא עושה רצונו לכך, אינו מרגיש היסורים כל כך, והרי המידות תלויים ברצון, והיינו שהוא פנימיותם ואחריותם. So from this we see that he can also force himself to do something that's unpleasant to him because he wants the result. He wants what that will give him, he will suffer through it, because he knows it's good for him. So all these are examples of will being higher than the attributes of the heart, what one experiences. And then he has a long parentheses here, all the way to the end. We started reading it yesterday. Because will is the lower part of the crown, which is higher. And there are 2 types of ratzon, says the Zohar. What are the 2 types of ratzon? There's ratzon that comes as a result of what a person wants, meaning what he feels in his heart. So he wants to gain what he feels in his heart.
What do you mean when you say ratzon?
In Chassidus, we translate all the terms that in Kabbalah seem to be very technical into a psychological experience. So arich, partzuf arich, the keter is made out of 2 partzufim, atik and arich. The lower partzuf in Chassidut is called ratzon, arich. It's like, arich really means savlani, like arichut af, arichut apayim, erech apayim. But it also indicates, in this case, will. That a person is patient when he wants his will to happen. He's strong-willed.
Ratzon is desire, no?
So you can say it's desire. It's more will, but desire is more like, I guess, tava, maybe. So there's ratzon that comes as a result of what the heart feels. But there's also, or it comes at least from the mind. We talked about this yesterday. It comes from what I want. I want with my rational mind. But there's also a higher will. In any case, even when you're talking about the will that comes out of the mind, it's still higher than the attributes, the feelings that come out of the mind. So even the lower will is higher than the midot, than the attributes of the heart. So all the more so the higher will. The higher will is mamash, the supernal will that a person has. It's what his mind is influenced by. It's like the inspiration for his life. It's what he's looking for in life. והוא עניין פני המנורה. Oh, sorry, it's a short parenthesis. I thought it was long. And that is referring to when we say that El mul pnei ha-menorah ya'iru shivat hanerot. The face of the menorah, here, this is an example of panim being related to erech, to arich. Because you say erech hapayim, you say long countenance. So when you say the face, the countenance of the menorah, you're talking about the will. Where is that? It's above. It's above the menorah. It's the menorah itself has 7 candles. Those represent the attributes of the heart. All the candles should be facing the face of the menorah. And the face of the menorah here represents the will from which they receive. So it's a clear symbol. והוא עניין פני המנורה, והוא כלי לבחינת רצון העליון שלמעלה מהשכל, שזהו עניין העלאת הנרות שעל ידי אהרון. That's why they have to be raised by Aaron, meaning that Aaron has the ability to reveal to a person what his mission in life is.
Raised, lit. What do you mean by raised?
להעלות את הנרות. You don't say להדליק את המנורה, you say להעלות את נרותיה. Behaalotcha, that's the name of the parsha. When you raise the candles. So to raise, that's what we said that Aaron does. He's one of the Shiva Ro'im, and which we said is really because of Moshe, not because he's not listed, but because he's the second half of Moshe Rabbeinu. And he is the one that lifts up from below the person to understand what his will is, what he really wants, what he needs to want in life. It's like the person is looking, is searching his whole life for what is my higher will? What am I really here for?
That's all well and good once Moshe and Aaron are still with us. When Moshe wasn't here anymore and Aaron took, his children took over, and there's no Moshe and Aaron, there's only Aaron by himself.
I thought you were going to say that as long as you have a Rebbe, so he can tell you what your mission in life is. And if Aaron's gone, so what do you do?
Well, Aaron has a son, a Yoresh.
So it's always somebody who's a Yoresh, but now I don't know anybody.
No Yoresh of Moshe Rabbeinu.
Why? Pashtuta de Moshe b'chol dara v'dara. After Moshe Rabbeinu, so it was a string of Moshe Rabbeinus. And each generation has its own Moshe Rabbeinu. But now I thought you were going to say, but since the Rebbe passed away, who can tell you if you're going on the right track or not? So some people use Igros, some people do this, do that, but in the end, most of the world feels orphaned. And how can I know from myself what I'm supposed to be doing? It's not so easy. So what is he saying here? It says that in the end, even though he's the one who's helping you, he's still only raising the candle. He can't do more than that. In the end, it's up to you to burn. It's up to you to do the work. So he may give you a direction. He may encourage you. He may do all these things. But in the end, the shlichus that you need to do in the world, it comes from your work, from your discovering it. And the Rebbe would seldom do that. And he would respond to what people said. If you said to him, it's like, these are the options, so this seems more than the others. But it really has to come from you. He can only encourage it. Okay. ועל זה מצווה הכתוב להפך רצונו ותשוקתו וחפצו לאהבה את השם, שלא יהיה לו חפץ ורצון אחר זולתו. So the main thing that a person needs to do in his life is to transform his will, and desire here is like chukah, and his cravings, his desires, and chefetzo. The difference between ratzon and chefetz is that chefetz is when you already have ta'anug in it. Ratzon can just be will without feeling any pleasure from it. But chefetz is the two partsufim of the keter together, because the top partsuf is called ta'anug or oneg, And the lower Partzuf is called Ratzon. So when Oneg and Ratzon come together, that's Chefetz. That's how it's explained in Chassidut. So it's more than just wanting something. It's wanting something because it causes me, or I feel already the pleasure in it. Whereas Reb Zalman Zezmer would say, I have a chush in it. To want something as chefetz, the chafotz, is to feel that is to know that I have a chush in this thing. I have a sense about it. I understand what's good there. So anyway, to transform all of these, the ratzon, shuka, and chefetz, le'ava et Hashem, to be directed entirely at connecting with Hashem, loving Hashem. Shelo yeh lo chefetz v'ratzon acher zulato, should not have anything but Hashem in His will. That's the purpose of life. וכמו שכתוב, as it says, מילי בשמיים ועמך לא חפצתי בארץ, כלה שיראו לבבי. That if I have nothing else in the heavens, and here we see that chefetz is in the earth. עמך לא חפצתי בארץ. Ba'aretz already means that it came down, that I have pleasure in it here. And I have no chefetz apart from you, Hashem. Then a person feels the yearning and the kala she'eri v'levavi. It's like my flesh and my heart have disintegrated from my love. Meaning it's so that's all I have in my yearning. How does a person come to this love and this type of will? הקדים הכתוב פסוק שמע ישראל השם אלוקינו, להתבונן היטב ולשום על ליבו איך שהוא יתברך אחד בשמיים והארץ, היינו אפילו בהשתלשלות שמיים וארץ רוחניים וגשמיים, מבחינת ואק עולמות נפרדים, הם מתאחדים וייחודו יתברך. So the way to do this is by meditating on the fact of Hashem being one, that there's nothing else except for Hashem above and below, even in this world, even in the worlds of separation. Because everything is like nothing before him. Because really we're talking about in our world. Because before our world we don't say Hashem is Echad, we would say Hashem is Yachid. Because before there's a world of multiplicity, of there being many details. So in the world that's before, Hashem is one because there's nothing
division,
else.
No division.
No divisions. No separation. But in our world, we say Hashem is Echad, like Achdut, like unification, like bringing things together. כמו שמובא במקום אחר, פסוק וירא אל אברהם, and so on. ואפילו במקור ההשתלשלות, בחינת המחדש בכל יום תמיד מעשה וראשית, נקרא השם אלוקינו, בחינת תרי ראין דלא מתפרשין. Even at the source of the evolution of worlds, the world of separation, the worlds of division, there too we say that Hashem is Elokeinu. Elokeinu is Rabim, is our God. But Elokim itself is already with the suffix of plurality, Yud Mem. So why do we say Hashem Elokeinu? B'chinat Rein Rein Delo Mitparshin. That even there, meaning the real, say it like this, that the big difference between the mind and the heart is that in the mind, even if I have two contradictory ideas, thesis and antithesis, I will never feel torn essentially. I will feel that I am entertaining two thoughts. One says like this and one says like that. It doesn't cause me to feel dissonance from myself.
If you have two contradictory thoughts, then
one says,
confusion.
Sell the house. Yeah, most it's confusion. But it's the very fact that I have two contradictory theses, two different understandings, doesn't, in the mind, it won't cause any damage. It doesn't cause me to disconnect from myself. I just understand that I have I have good reason to say one thing and a good reason to say the other thing. That's not an issue. Then I can live with that. Because it's tzadim lekan v'lekan. There are arguments in favor of this, and there's arguments in favor of that. It's not clear cut.
Yeah, but eventually you have to come to make a decision.
Okay, settle. Even before I can make the decision. The very fact that I have two opinions about something is not cause for dissonance for myself. It just means that the issues are complex. There's reason to say this, and there's reason to say that.
Why does it mean the issue is complex? Maybe you're wishy-washy and you can't make your mind up. Maybe you don't understand the whole issue.
Oh, maybe I don't understand enough. That could be.
Maybe you don't want to make a decision.
So that could also be, but I'm not talking about
one thing is wrong and one thing is right.
Yeah, here I'm talking about the theoretical side. I don't need to come to a decision yet. It's just pros and cons. I have good reason to say this. I have good reason to say that. Nobody becomes mentally ill because they have different ideas.
Actually, it is the other end of a long, long line all the way down the road.
Right. So where's the end of the road?
If you're going to decide you're going to have cornflakes for breakfast or a fried egg, you don't become mentally ill trying to work that out.
No, but now you're talking about doing something.
Because that's not an issue.
Because you're talking about doing something. It's not a theoretical issue. It's already you're weakening yourself because you need to make a decision.
In theory, I could starve. In theory, I could eat, right? So you could be weakening yourself.
Can. In theory, there's good reason to eat. There's also good reason not to eat. In the end, you have to either eat or not eat.
Make a decision.
Okay. But that's not related to the mind. The mind just weighs the different sides.
So who makes the decision?
Dat makes the decision. The consciousness is already a decision, and that is the opening of the heart. It's the key to the heart.
In the mind?
What?
That is not in the mind.
It's not a way of analysis. It's already connecting the mind with the heart, and the actual actions that a person is going to go do. Machshava, dibur, maaseh. So the maaseh at the end needs something to connect it to the machshava. But they're not normally connected even. A lot in Chassidus is about the form of the letter Hey. The Hey has 3 lines. The top line, the horizontal line, is machshava. The descending line on the right is dibur. The explanation of Chassidus is that machshava and dibur are very related.
Dibur is amshacha?
Is amshacha from the machshava. And when you're speaking, you can't think separately. All your machshava goes into the speech. Okay. You can't speak.
Not everybody.
And listen to somebody else.
Some people can.
Nah, that's nonsense. You can't speak, say something.
Give it your full concentration.
And understand what you're saying, and yet listen to something else that's going on and understand what's going on. You can't do 2 of them. But the same is not true about maaseh. So maaseh is the left leg of the hay, and it's disconnected from the top line because it stands by itself. So you can do many things and listen. It's actually how most people find it easier to listen. They need to occupy their faculty of action in order to free up their thinking, so that they can understand. So they feel like for instance, when I hear a shir, if I don't write it as I'm listening to it, I can't listen to it. I have to do something. So women, I don't know, they knit, whatever you do, you cook in the kitchen, whatever it is. You're driving even. Because action does not require the full attention of the mind, and they're separate. So so there's a disconnect. It's a big deal in Chassidus. There's a big disconnect between machshava and maaseh. You have to fill in the gap. How do you fill in the gap? So one of the explanations is that that's what da'at does. Da'at is a filler. Consciousness is a filler for that gap between what you think and what you actually do. So one of the ways of understanding it is that it's the decision process. There's a decision process that you have to go through in order to be able to decide. But again, getting back to the main point was that to think never causes, even if you have contradictory opinions, because you can say he's can't decide, it's fine, but in the mind it's not causing any problems. Because in the mind, that's what the mind was meant for. That there's this opinion and that opinion, and you have to decide. In the end, you have to. Okay, so they both have merit. What you want to do with them?
You don't always do that either.
Right, you don't always take it beyond the mind. Sometimes it just stays in the mind.
Sometimes circumstances make a decision for you.
But when it comes to, so that's called Tren Re'in de lo mitparshin. There are two companions that never part. Meaning,
I thought that was Hod and Yesod.
No. Netzach and Hod are Tren Palgei Gufa. They're called two sides of the same body, or two sides of a coin. And this side, that side. They have one body. Tren Re'in de lo mitparshin. What?
Adam and Chava.
Adam and Chava are more like, initially they were more like Chochmah and Bina. And then they became separated, so they became like Chesed and Gvura. They weren't even, but you're right in terms of the fact that they were two sides of one body. So there's also, in fact, there's been an explanation like that in the world of Tohu, Netzach and Hod are one Sfira entirely. It says that in the future, the Rebbe talks about this, in the future they will become one Sfira again. When we're able to take the lights of Tohu and to bring them into vessels of Tikkun, it'll rejoin Netzach and Hod, because in the world of Tohu there was only one vessel for the two of them. What does that mean? What it means is that a person will experience his active confidence the same as his passive confidence. In other words, there's no difference between me doing something and Hashem doing something. To be active is to say it's up to me. To be passive is to say it's up to Hashem. When they join, it's a feeling that everything that's up to Hashem I have to do. That's one of the explanations of what it means, Migdash Hashem konenu yadecha. What does it mean? How can it be that we'll build the base of Mikdash and yet Hashem will build it? How can it be? Because we'll understand, we'll come to a place where it's clear to us that for us to do something means that Hashem did it. There's no difference between the two.
Well, the base of Mikdash is built, we just have to pull it down.
So, but you have to pull it. Yeah? You have to
but Hashem has already built it. It's up to you to
so
accept
what is that trying to... No, it's not exactly true, because you still have to build it. It says the Mashiach boneh mikdash b'mkomot. And livnot means to build. How can you say that this is Hashem? Because there's no difference between the two. It becomes fused in your mind that whatever I do, it's as if Hashem did. It's very common for people to say this today. Whether they mean it or not is a different question.
What did they say?
The credit is not mine. Hashem did this. I didn't do anything. When you give tzedakah, what do you say? Don't thank
not
me.
Because it's Hashem giving it.
Why?
It's because Hashem's giving you the seichel to work it out for yourself. Hashem has given you the koach, or Hashem has given you the money, right?
So, but after the fact, what do you feel? That you gave it? Or do you feel that Hashem gave it? It's not clear.
I don't think anybody really feels that Hashem gave it.
Really?
You're saying that Hashem helped me to be able to give it.
So
either by giving me good health or money or common sense or whatever it is. But it didn't, it's unusual that Hashem holds you and shakes you until the money falls out of your pocket and it goes to somebody else's pocket.
That would mean that he would do everything.
Also happen.
But that would mean that he would do everything.
No, there can be a circumstance.
But that would mean that he did everything.
Right.
Because he shook you.
Right.
No, I'm saying that you actually gave it, but you feel that Hashem did it.
Someone's very poorly, and you go to the hospital and you're down for them, and then you give tzedakah. That is Hashem saying to you, wake up, you need to do something. That's much more Hashem doing it. But on a regular day-to-day basis, you're giving 10% of your money to tzedakah. That's halacha in the Torah, so you're just doing what you're supposed to. So that's not.
I think we talked about this once, about when you light Hanukkah candles, this is especially related to this, Behaalotcha hanerot. So who lit the candles? It says, Ad sheteh shal'evet olam me'elea.
Who lit which candles where?
Hanukkah candles are the candles in the menorah and the Beis Hamikdash.
The first time?
The whole idea.
After the war?
No, who is lighting? The point is to bring it to the point where the flame rises by itself. So who lit it? Did I light it or did Hashem light it? When something happens by itself, what do I mean? Hashem did it. How can Aaron come to that state where he lights the candles, but it's as if they lit themselves? That's exactly what's meant. That of course I did something. I saw that I needed to bring the match near the wick. But in the end, the feeling is not that I did this.
Eliyahu Novi was on Carmel and he didn't like anything. He davened to Hashem and Hashem set the fire down for him.
So that's already much more of a miracle. But that's not normal.
You don't do that when you light candles?
I don't do that.
Okay.
Yeah, because I light candles, because I actually strike the match. Anyway, so getting back to this, when it comes to the emotions of the heart, it's very different. That if a person feels love and hate towards something, that can eventually lead to dissonance in the nefesh, in the psyche.
All this time with Moach Shalit al Alev.
Then we're talking about controlling what you do. We're not talking about what you experience as a feeling towards it. You can control what you do.
Your mind doesn't control what you think, what you feel.
No, it doesn't control the inner aspect of the heart, only the external aspect.
Walking down the road, and you see something which you shouldn't be looking at, right? And your mind says to you, "This is not for you. You're from Jew. Look the other way."
Good.
That's not Marshal.
Good, because you changed your action. But that doesn't mean you're not you're still. It doesn't mean that you've stopped being attracted to it, because that's not in the mind's power. It says that Moach Shalit al Alev means that the external aspect of the mind controls the external aspect of the heart, which is just how you act. You can control how you act. However, the inner aspect of the heart controls the mind. Meaning, if the heart really wants something, then the mind has to be very, very strong, but eventually it'll lose because it has no control over the experience. In other words, I can act the right way and still hate somebody. I can't get over it because that's the experience I have. But I know how to act, because the act is an external aspect. It's an external expression of the heart. But I can't change the way I feel. So is that the end? So he says, no. The inner aspect of the mind controls even the inner aspect of the heart. What's the inner aspect of the... What?
It's a very big problem for a Kohen.
It's a very big problem for everybody.
No, it's a very big problem because you make a bracha.
Okay.
Why
you said Ba'ava?
Okay. And you got there, you've got to love everybody in the shore.
That's not what it means?
Down there is getting on your nerves, and if you could, you go...
No, who said that that's what it means? It means that you're blessing everybody. They should be loving people.
No, you're blessing them with love.
No, you're blessing them
your
to have love.
Israel is what brings down the...
You can also think about it, that I'm blessing you to have love. Because we see that even if you hate somebody, you still have to go up and give them the bracha.
Right.
You can't get out of it.
Maybe not. Maybe you don't go up and go and give the bracha.
Nah, it's no such thing.
No,
you still have to go.
It's not a joke.
Yeah, some people go out. So they'll go out. The Kohen will go out and he will say, "I want to say that." But truthfully, you should still do the mitzvah. In any case, having contradictory experiences does lead to dissonance. Having contradictory opinions doesn't. Because
if you only had one opinion, you wouldn't even be a real human being.
You have to have left and right. Right.
When you put your computer and you press that button, the computer usually doesn't say idiot, you press the wrong button.
The point of the intellect is to think things dialectically. That's how it works. That's why it's called shir kaful. It's a double song. It has to have two sides to it. If it doesn't have two sides, it's not a song, in the case of the intellect. But in the heart, it has to be a shir meshulash, a triple song. Why? Because if there's only two, you'll destroy yourself. There has to be a third that balances them.
Which is?
The middle axis that contains both sides.
Which is what?
In the case of Chesed Gvura, and then Tiferet.
It's Bina?
No, Chokhmah Bina is in the intellect.
Yeah.
That's where you do have two. There's only two. In the heart, Chesed Gvura, Tiferet.
So where's the dat?
Dat is to connect between the intellect and the. That's what we said before. It's to connect between.
Dat comes to the moch, no? Dat is part of the moch.
No, definitely not as an analytic mind. It's not analytic at all. There's no thinking going
What's the third thing
on.
in the heart?
What?
The third thing in the heart is Chesed Gvura and Tiferet.
Okay. So the Tiferet, the middle axis, contains the other two.
Yeah, but Tiferet is not something on its own. Tiferet is a combination
No.
of
It's something on its
Chesed
own.
and
It's
Gvura.
entirely on its own. It's a common.
Tiferet is a mixture.
It's a-
Chesed said,
Ah.
give that guy money. And Gvura says, he's a bum, he'll only use it on drugs. So Tiferet says, yeah, but there is a way to give it to him, and he won't use it wrong.
That's already an intellectual decision. It's an intellectual solution. That's like a synthesis in the mind. That's not in the
That's
field.
what I always understood it.
Yeah,
Tiferet was.
That's
A synthesis.
That's not.
If it's a synthesis.
That's not Rachamim. Rachamim says, even though I know he's going to use it for the wrong thing, I still have compassion for him. He's going to use it for the wrong thing, I know. But I'm going to win him over. I'm going to awaken his trust in me. I'm going to become his friend and lead him out of where he is because of my compassion over him. It's a different force altogether. We're done?
Yeah, we-
Same.